Hello, folks. Welcome to Holding On with Holder, where I talk to interesting people about interesting topics. My name is Steve Holder, and I am your host. My guest this evening is Erik Raschke, author, teacher, and journalist. Welcome, Erik.
Hi, thank you.
Glad to have you with me. So, tell us a little bit about your background. Who are you?
Well, my microphone's moving all over the place here. I'm a writer. I'm an author. I written two novels, about 10 years apart, and my latest book is To the Mountain, right here. It's a novel about a boy and about a boy, an autistic boy who's lost in the forest during a snowstorm, and his father has to go find him. And it's about a story about survival, but it's also about a father and a son and their relationship. So,
Now, so what inspires you to write?
I guess I've always wanted to write. My dad was a writer, and well, he is a writer, and he writes nonfiction. But I always wanted to write. I like books. I always loved books, and just started writing when I was very young. I think when I was like 10 or 11, I started writing short stories about my dog, and yeah, just kept writing the whole time. Went to graduate school for creative writing, and uh, and then yeah, and then I was in the Netherlands for 10, 11 years. And the reason there's such a space between my two books is because uh, yeah, there was a lot of stuff going on in the Netherlands, and my oldest son is autistic, and so it just takes a lot of space. I have three kids, so
So, what's your writing process?
it depends on how busy I am. You're retired, right?
I am,
Yeah, so your days are pretty open.
yeah,
my days are get the kids off to school, uh, and then if depending on what I have to deal with, what sort of bills or emergencies around the house or whatever, and then but I try to write 4 to 5 hours a day,
yeah,
at least 5 to 6 days a week. Yeah.
yeah. So, you want to write fiction?
I do. I like nonfiction. I do, but I feel that fiction has a lot more. You can cover a lot more ground and a lot more emotion and a lot more feeling in a shorter amount of space. It's
Yeah,
much more efficient fiction. You can
yeah,
just move anywhere and do anything and create anything.
yeah. Are your characters inspired by real people that you know?
Me and my son, yeah, me and my son.
Yeah.
We are the characters in the book. So yeah.
So do you feel like writing energizes you, or does it exhaust you, or how does it affect you?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it energizes me in the end when it's almost finished. Then you
Yeah,
get a lot of energy. There's a short burst there, and then also, when people read it and they give you feedback and all that, you're getting that energy from other people. But being a writer is very solitary. You
yeah,
know,
I know.
yeah, you do podcasting. I'm sure it's the same. I mean, you get to at least talk to people, but
Yeah.
uh,
Well, I've written and published a few books myself, so I know how that goes.
oh, so you're asking me all these questions about like what's your writing process? Is it? I mean, how many books have you written?
Nine now.
9 books?
Yeah, three
Wow,
nonfiction and the other, I mean, excuse me, three fiction and the other nonfiction.
I should be
Uh,
interviewing you.
I'm just a guy.
Yeah. So tell what. Like, I'm curious. So when was the last time you wrote the book? I mean, was it recently or is it
My last one was last year.
okay?
I just write in spurts. Sometimes I'm in a writing mood, sometimes I'm not. Sometimes
Right.
I'll go for months and not write anything, and then I'll decide to finish a book. I usually have about five or six in the works at one time, and just if ever I feel like writing on one, I write on it.
Yeah.
That works for me. I know it wouldn't work for everybody.
No. Did you write about your running for office?
No, I haven't. No, I haven't. Not yet, anyway.
I would be interested in reading that.
Yeah, not yet. Uh, So you've written 2 books, and don't you also teach authors? Don't you teach writing courses?
Yeah, I do. I'm in New Jersey now because my son is going to a special school for autism. So we came here together, and the rest of my family stayed in Amsterdam. But yeah, I was teaching for the last 13 years. I was teaching writing to students in Amsterdam, uh, mostly adults, people who, or students that were doing extra classes on top of their classes. But I
Yeah.
taught a novel class, I taught a memoir class, and creative writing. So covered a lot of bases. Yeah, it was nice.
So how many hours per week do you say you write?
Uh, I would say maybe 20 to 25 on a good week.
Yeah.
But a lot of that also just, I mean, it's exhausting those 4 hours, and then I need a break. And then because it's intense, it's not like when you have a job, like right now, I'm teaching a lot in New York City. Here, I'm drive to New Jersey, I teach in New York City. And it's kind of nice because, you have a job and someone comes and they ask you a question and they talk to you, and then you have lunch, and then you have to do this and do that and do this, and then all of a sudden your 8-hour day is just over.
Yeah.
But when you're a writer, you're sitting in a room. I mean, this, you're sitting in a room staring at words on a screen or on a typewriter or whatever, and you just it's just intense. And it sounds, I mean, I think most people are like, shut up, it's a great life, you have a great life, you get to go and write all day. But I mean, there is something really nice about having a job where you're in contact with people, and you have this little job to do and this little job to do and this thing to do, and by the end of the day you feel, yeah, you've actually done something. Whereas as a writer, you're sitting in a room for 4 hours and maybe you change 4 sentences, and there's no measurement, what I'm saying. So
So you know about writer's block.
I do. I don't really have writer's block, to be honest. I call my 4-year-old son my writer's block, because he's the one who's always getting in the way of me trying to focus. But if I didn't have kids, I would be writing all the time, I think. So
Yeah.
I'd be catching up to you with your 9 books.
So do you enjoy writing more or teaching more?
Oh, that's a good question. I enjoy writing, obviously, because I do writing. Um, I I teach a lot. Before I moved to Amsterdam, I taught kids in the Bronx and Upper Manhattan, and I'm still doing a little bit of that now too. And I really like teaching them writing. Um, Other students I'm teaching writing, I do enjoy it. It does become slightly exhausting though, because you're spending all your energy helping other people become good writers, and that sort of takes away from your own focus a little bit.
Yeah.
So I can't always do the two back to back. I have to take a little bit of breaks here and there, but you know, you have bills to pay and mouths to feed and stuff. So teaching's the one that pays the bills. So
Yeah. So when you sat down to write your first book, how hard was it to begin?
it wasn't, because it was a short story, and then it was another short story, and it was another short story. And then by the
Yeah.
time I had four short stories that were about the same sort of theme, I just combined them all together into a book.
Yeah.
So it was already halfway there by the time I started, you know.
Yeah.
Uh,
So do you read a lot?
I do. I do. I do. I think I do suffer. I have to say, I do suffer what a lot of people suffer now with Netflix and Amazon and stuff like that, that there's such a plethora of things to watch on TV too, that it's easy to, and good stuff, just to sit down and, watch Netflix. But um, I do read. I probably read about a book a week, maybe every other week, depending on how busy my schedule is.
Yeah.
Um, and also when I'm writing, I just finished another novel just now, and I sent it off to have people read it and give me feedback on it. And I was working pretty busily on that too, so it's hard for me to also read another writer when I'm really entrenched in my own book,
Yeah.
because it's sort of like you're trying to come up with a good tune, and then you hear another catchy tune and it sort of throws you off. So
Yeah. Most writers will say that reading helps their writing. I mean, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I completely. I have so many students that come to me and they're like, I don't read. And I
Yeah,
think to myself, how can you write but don't read? Like the
yeah,
two, it's like saying like I want to be a musician, but I don't really listen to music.
yeah.
You have to read as much as you possibly can, you know?
And how can you encourage other people to read your books if you don't even read yourself?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
It feels very disingenuous. It's a good point. Yeah.
yeah.
So,
So is there a little bit of you in each of your characters?
I think everybody has that a little bit, right? Wouldn't you agree? I mean, you sort of have to. I always say that if you're going to spend a year, 2 years with a character intensely, that you have to care about them and like them and want to put them out in the world.
Yeah,
And then because you're also asking other people to spend,
yeah,
6, 7, 8 hours with that person. So I think most people do put themselves into characters because if you don't, then the character becomes flat and nobody wants to spend time, I mean,
yeah.
so
Have you noticed that sometimes the characters kind of take a life of their own and they start telling you, no, I wouldn't do that, or I wouldn't say that?
yeah, of course. I think everybody has that, but you have to do your best not to let that happen,
Yeah. Do you believe that all writers have a muse?
Oh, all writers? I don't want to speak for all writers. Um, I mean, what do you mean by a muse though?
Uh, Kind of an inner voice that guides you and tells you what you need to do, kind of an instinct, I guess.
So you're not talking about like a girlfriend or something. You're talking about
No,
like something
no, no,
inside
no.
inside of you that's guiding
Something
you. Yeah.
inside, yeah, something inside.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of crazy actually, I mean, I hear the stories in my head and then they build and they build and they build. And at some point I, I, I have to write it because it's so full in my head. I have the whole from the beginning to the end in my head. I have to put it on paper. Um, and that's crazy. Like, because I'm a writer, it's acceptable. But if I wasn't a writer, I'm like, hey, I hear voices in my head, and I hear these stories, and I just start telling you this. People are like,
Yeah,
ooh. But because I'm a writer, it's acceptable. But it is
yeah,
crazy. I don't
yeah.
know
If
if
you
it's a
write
muse, if it's a
fiction, you have to have wild imagination.
yeah, I don't know if it's a muse or if it's just borderline insanity. So
Well, said when I got into politics, you don't have to be insane to be a politician, but it helps.
yeah.
So maybe you can say the same thing about writers. I don't know.
Well, let me ask you a question. I'm always curious. What are politics in Tennessee like?
Dirty
Yeah.
and very Republican, very conservative, and that's not me. So that's why I didn't win.
But even like Nashville and stuff like that, it's really conservative, or
I live in Northeast Tennessee,
right,
but yeah, Nashville's conservative. The whole state is conservative. Yeah,
right, okay.
very
But
much
why is it
so.
why is it dirty though? I'm just curious.
Well, the person that won the office that I saw, which was U.S. Congress,
Yeah.
she's a millionaire, and her and her husband owned a pharmacy, and they sold illegal Chinese drugs as American drugs. He ended up going to prison, and she became a millionaire and got into Congress. So, what do you think?
Wow, it's impressive. That's an interesting thing to write about, though.
Yeah, that's a story in itself.
Yeah, it
Uh,
sounds very very typically American though in a weird way. Like you have all these different factors going into it, and then you become powerful.
Now, so have you ever considered co-writing a book with someone else?
Ooh. Well, I have to say, right now, my dad is writing a memoir. I'm not co-writing it, but my dad is writing a memoir, and he asked me to help him with it, and it's um it's a challenge because there's a lot of stuff in there that's hard for me to read, um uh but we are basically I mean, he's writing it, but I'm his editor. I think that's about as close to co-writing as I'll
Yeah,
probably get. I mean, it's my dad, and you know otherwise no. I mean, it's a very independent a very independent thing. Hold on one second. I'm just gonna close the door. It's a very independent process, and it's that whole scene in Woody Allen where he at the end of Annie Hall, where he he puts on the play of his story with Annie Hall, but it has a totally different ending than what really happened. I think writing is, being a writer, you most writers I know, you want to have a sort of a control over your thoughts, and you have these things in your head, and they're all in your own head, and they're imaginary, and then you're controlling them, and you're trying to convince other people that these thoughts in your head are real. And then I think then to have someone else step in and be like, let's change it here, and let's do this, and let's do that, and I don't know if I could do it. I mean, people do it all the time, and people co-write books all the
What
time.
editors do, right?
Yeah. So but I don't know. Could you co-write a book? Have you co-written a book, or?
I haven't, no.
No.
I'm not against it, but I don't have my heart set on it either, so yeah.
Could you do a podcast with another person?
I could. I
Yeah.
haven't, but I could, yeah. I don't know how well it would work out, but I would try. Yeah. Do you ever get frustrated about people that who do not read your books?
No, I used to when I was younger, and I would send people stuff, but
Yeah.
books are it's like music, it's such a personal taste, and what I write, a lot of people, I get it. There's a lot of people who they want to read a book and they want to be transported to, science fiction, or they want to romance, or I don't know. I mean, I look at my friends' bookshelves. And judge them quietly, but I don't say anything. But yeah, but I've stopped sending them stuff to read, or forcing them to read it, and
Yeah.
so it just doesn't do any good, because it's also, if they don't like it, then it's always really disappointing when you ask your friends, so, hey, what'd you think of my short story? And they're like, yeah, it was really interesting. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
yeah. And you're like, I didn't want to hear that. And then you go out and you have a drink with them, and you're thinking the whole time, well, why don't they like my writing, or what's wrong with that? So to cross your friends with your profession, I think it can often be dangerous,
Yeah. So have you ever completely destroyed one of your drafts on halfway through and said it's garbage? I'm going to start over.
Oh yeah, definitely. In this book, I mean, look at how small this book is, right? This is 37,000 words. When I first finished the draft of this book, and I don't know, maybe third, fourth, fifth, sixth draft, first draft was 100,000 words. And then the next draft was about 85,000. The next draft was about 70,000. And now it's 37,000. So and that was good stuff too. I mean, it wasn't bad stuff. It just didn't fit with the story.
Yeah.
And so it had to be cut. So yeah, that's destroying stuff right there,
So other than helping your dad on his memoir, are you working on anything else?
Yeah, well, so I just said, I finished a book that I had written about 15 years ago, and I sort of set aside. It was about, it's a very simple story. It takes place in Armenia. I was in the Peace Corps in Armenia, and it's about a guy, very normal, everyday sort of American guy, and he goes and he sort of has a small relationship with his tutor, and then a revolution breaks out, and he has to sort of help her, and it's basically a romance. But I guess, like, what I like about it is that she's this very dynamic character, and she's Armenian, and she's very dynamic. She's learning about the world, learning about America and stuff. And he's just a very simple American guy. He's very caring. He's very good. He's very helpful. He's not very robust, he's not this deep sort of thinker, really fascinating person. He's just a good guy. And she is just this sort of firecracker, and she's part of the whole political stuff. And I think I really like it because she really struggles with her love for him throughout the book. But that stability that he provides, and that caring and that loving is something that I have found. Like this sounds weird, but like living outside of the United States, I've lived at least half of my life now outside of the United States. And but I'm always an American, and I'm very aware of how other people see America and what America is, and how it goes to the, how it's viewed. And so I love America. I love it here. I would never, I'm abroad, and especially in the Netherlands, you hear people like, well, I want to give up my American passport. I'm like, what? Why would you do that? Like, it's the greatest country on the earth, but it's, um, but it does. I mean, to be honest about it, it is, you go to middle America, to, the Middle East, the middle America, like, but he's from Dallas, Texas. And yeah, he's just an ordinary guy. He likes to go to the gym. He likes to eat hot wings. He likes to drink beer, but he's also set up. All of a sudden, he's in the middle of this, big cultural revolution, and he has to help her get out of the country. And so it was a really nice sort of thing to play with. Like, what does it mean to be an American? You don't have to be the kind of guy that jumps out of a helicopter and, start shooting things up. You can also just quietly be persistent and strong and brave, and and get back and bring your bride back to Chili's, for hot wings,
So do you have a website?
I do. It's my name. It's Erik Raschke, ERIKRASCHKE.com.
Okay. And can people order your books off of your website?
Yes, please. Yes, it's here's the book again. Yes. Oh, you
Okay.
can order it. No, you order it from Amazon. Order it from
Amazon.
yeah, any small bookstores, any small bookstores, please go to a small bookstore and order it. They can get it in a few days, and support the local bookstores, I would say, before you spend
Eric,
money.
I've enjoyed talking to you. Is there anything else you want to say that I haven't given you a chance to say?
No, I think this has been nice. It's interesting always talking about writing. I you always give a sort of a curveball question to your guests, but that's okay. I don't need a curveball on a Monday night.
Okay, well, thanks again for being my guest. Folks, thanks for joining Holding On with Holder. Please subscribe to my channel and feel free to share this video all over social media and check out Eric's books. He would love to have you buy them. Thanks,
Thank
Eric.
you very much. I really enjoyed it. Thanks.
Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
All right, you too. Bye.